In half an hour, Julian Barnes and Hermione Lee will be looking at the people and the places behind Alain Fournier's classic novel Le Grand Monde. That's at 11:30. But now on Radio 4, Crossing Continents, and this week Angus Crawford joins Bangladeshis working to halt the illegal practice of child brides.
So we've arrived in the middle of the village. Now we're just getting out and we're going to walk down the track to find Jemy. Coming up to a small compound. It's a mud brick house and there's some reed wattles around the outside, some chickens pecking around, and we're going to go in and see what we can find. Salam alaikum. So this is Jemy. Would you tell her that we hear she's getting married next week?
Yes.
Are you excited about that?
Not very much.
How old are you, Jemy?
I'm not sure. Class 8. I asked her whether it's 13 or not, since it's 8th grade. She said probably.
So Jemy is very small. She's wearing green trousers and bright indigo flip-flops, and she's got little red earrings in her ears. Another member of the family has turned up to talk to us. In fact, there's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people in this little compound. One of them, we're told, is also a young woman who was forced to marry when she was young and is now trying to get a divorce. How long have you been married?
1 year.
And how old are you?
14.
What is married life like?
My husband is not good. He beats me. He tortures me.
So are you going to divorce him?
Yes, I want to divorce him.
At 14, you will be divorced from your husband.
I feel very bad.
Jemmy's mother arrives back from the fields. She says the wedding must go ahead because it's the right thing to do, and anyway, she's invited all the guests.
I have no fear. I'm giving her away because it's also my sister's son.
But your daughter doesn't say she wants to be married.
Girls never say they want to get married. They never tell their parents that I want to get married now.
But she's a child, and the law of Bangladesh states that it's a criminal offence to marry off a child. What do you think?
I'm getting her married because I love her.
We have to go now, but we tell Jemy and her mother that we'll be back again in a couple of days to see if the family has changed its mind and cancelled the wedding, which is due in just 6 days' time. A song about love and romance from the mouth of a child. It rises above the slum where she lives, like the kites being flown by her friends around her, their blue plastic tails flapping in the wind over the heaps of rubbish and the stagnant pools of water. Here, 20% of girls, just like Jemy, are forced to marry before they're 15 years old, often to a man they meet for the first time on their wedding day. It's against the law, but still millions are being robbed of their childhoods. I'm Angus Crawford, and in today's Crossing Continents, I follow a group of children who've decided to fight back and say to their parents, enough's enough. But in the face of grinding poverty and deeply held beliefs, can they really succeed? We're just walking into the slum of Bashantek, down a small concrete lane, which is bordered on either side by little shops. This one selling all sorts of onions and potatoes, little cafes on the side, a little bathhouse as well. A man walks along a pitted track in the centre of the slum with a large pile of books on his shoulder, trying to sell them to passers-by. And just before he gets to the end of the line of shacks, we come to a house made of bricks where we meet Shajida, who's 16 and got married Last year, when she was just 15, she's with her father Mohammed, who arranged the marriage, even though it was against her wishes.
When she was living in the village, she used to go to school, and then she came to Dhaka and started to work at the garments factory. I do feel bad, but now I'm married, so I can't go to school. I knew the day I was going to get married. My parents came and told me that I would be getting married. We're poor and it's very difficult to get a good suitor for our daughters. So when we did, we just got them married.
Does it not make you feel sad that you feel you had to marry off your daughter at the age of 15 and that she had no choice?
Yes, I do feel sad because her husband is poor and her husband will never provide for her to go to school. That's why I do feel bad.
But with your daughter married and maybe having children soon, doesn't that make your life even more difficult? It increases your poverty.
Yes, our problems may increase because we got her married, but she's a poor man's daughter, and a lot of people will say a lot of nasty things if she gets older and she's not married.
We're going to see Oli Ahmed, who's just 12 years old, and he's leading the group of boys who go round this slum trying to find out which girls are at most risk of being forced into marriages against their will. So we're just walking into Ollie's house now. It's a corrugated iron shack. Hello, how are you today? Nice to see you. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. This child marriage is big problems in my country.
Ollie's wearing a bright yellow shirt and blue jeans. He's small for his age. He has big brown eyes and a very cheeky grin.
I used to know a girl who was like an older sister to me. I was like a younger brother to her. And she was taken to a village, their own village, by her parents. And then she was forced to get married there. But she never came back. But I don't know what happened to her.
That must have made you very sad.
Yes, I was very angry and I was very sad because I used to play with her every day. She used to call me brother and she would call me every day to come and play, and after she left, I never found anyone like her again.
Off his own bat, Ollie approached an NGO called Plan International, which was already working in his slum in Dhaka. He told them he wanted to set up a group led by children to try and stop his friends being married off so young.
I wanted to bring a smile back on the parents' faces, because I know that even if the parents get their children married off early, they still feel a sense of guilt, and they don't know what happened to their children after they are married off. So I thought that preventing child marriages would bring a smile to the parents' faces.
So Ollie has changed into his school uniform with a very smartly pressed light blue shirt and dark blue trousers and a backpack slung over his back full of his books, and he's setting off through the slum. There's a very strong smell of drains and mud. It's such a busy school that it actually has to sit in 2 shifts, and he's on the late shift today that starts at about 10:30. This is Ollie's class. There are 76 pupils in a small room. They're 4 to a desk, crammed in. Could you put your hands up if you know girls who have had to marry before they're 18? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There's about 22 or 23, so we're talking a third of the class. How many of you think it is bad for girls to marry before they are 18? A sea of hands. There isn't a single one down. They've all gone up. It's assembly time and a boy sings verses from the Quran. Bangladesh is 90% Muslim, but child marriage isn't primarily a religious issue. It happens just as much in the country's minority Hindu community. The central cause is poverty, and at the heart of that is the concept of dowry, the money a father must pay to his daughter's future husband to secure the match.
A girl doesn't necessarily earn income in this culture. They are very dependent on their parents or on other people to protect themselves, to go to school, or to stay healthy.
Myrna Mingming Ivora is the country director for Plan International, which supports Ollie in his work. It specialises in trying to educate girls and their parents about the dangers of early marriage. The causes, she says, are complex, but their roots lie in poverty.
She is a burden, especially if the child requires a very high dowry. And dowry for a very poor family is work of a lifetime. So they'd rather start early so that the dowry is not very high, and also because at an early age, the girl is more, quote unquote, for them, saleable. It's the new kind of slavery.
You've met many of these girls. What do they say to you about how they felt on their wedding day and on their wedding night as they wait in their sari in their new home for their new husband to come to them?
What they say is, I lost my childhood and I will lose my sense of being as a person. I cannot imagine yesterday I was in school, then I was asked by my father to stop because today I get married. I don't even know the person. And sometimes the person is not just of my age, but an older man. And then I become a mother. That's really, really very scary.
তারা আমাদেরকে মানে এক্সপেক্ট করছে আর কি আচ্ছা
A phone call from an activist in Jemy's village. He says her parents will only cancel the wedding, which is due in just 4 days' time, if they're given money to cover their costs. Ollie's in school for the rest of the day, so we've arranged to go and see him again tomorrow, when he and his friends go round the slum trying to find girls at risk. In the meantime, we've got a meeting at Dhaka Medical College Hospital. The social effects of child marriage can be toxic, but it can also have a devastating impact on health. Girls under 15 are 5 times more likely to die in childbirth than women over 20. And even if they survive, they're likely to have very serious internal injuries or fistula, which can leave them incontinent for life.
The teenage girls, they're married and they become pregnant within 1 year, and during that first delivery, they develop this fistula and continuous dribbling, and they can't have the sexual relationship with the husband.
Professor Ferdowsi Islam is head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology here.
Most of the time, majority, almost 95%, the husbands left the girl, and so she has lost everything, and she has to have some space in her parents' home. And we have some examples that even in the parents' home, nobody wants to keep her in the house because of the smell. So they ask her to stay in the cattle, where the cattle stay.
The walls are peeling, there are cockroaches on the floor, but there's a quiet hum of efficiency. There's operations going on just down the corridor. But in this ward, I'm just walking into now, it's got 8 beds, white tiled walls, and on a bed in the far corner, there's a very young girl who's sitting cross-legged on the bed. She's got a scarf over her head. The staff here believe she's just 12 or 13. Her name is Poppy. She walked in here alone 2 days ago.
It's a very hateful illness and I can't stand the smell that I have to live with. I cry sometimes. What else can I do?
What does your husband and your husband's family think of this?
Because of this illness, my husband has abandoned me.
How many children have you had?
I had 1.
What happened to your baby?
It died in my tummy. They had to cut it out.
Will you ever marry again and have children?
No.
What would you say to other girls, 12 and 13, who are facing being married at that age?
I say to other girls of that age that you should not get married. If you do, then this is the condition that you will be in.
As we get up to leave, Poppy says, please pray for me, pray that I get better. It's Friday morning and we're back in Bashantek, walking through the maze of back alleys. And we're here to see Ollie again, because today, with his friends, he's going to start going door to door, looking for children they believe are most at risk.
I think we do a better job than the adults, because whenever we go out there, the adults think they're so young and they seem to know so much, and we have so much to learn from them. So I think we are more convincing and we are more enthusiastic than the older people.
We meet the rest of the team in the community centre at the heart of the slum. Before Ollie leads them out to work, I talk to the girls about what life is really like growing up here. They immediately raise the issue of so-called Eve teasing, a quaint-sounding euphemism that actually covers anything from sexual harassment to kidnap and even murder. They explain that it's yet another factor forcing poor families to marry off their daughters.
I feel very bad when I'm Eve teased in the streets, when I go out on the streets and men say bad things to me. I feel very bad, and when my parents know about it, sometimes they blame me for it. They say that you must have done something to attract the attention of the men. And I think as a result of this Eve teasing, sometimes parents feel that they should get their daughter married earlier. Sometimes they also threaten our parents that they'll kidnap us, and sometimes there's the threat of acid violence, and sometimes they're even killed when we don't listen to them or agree to their proposals.
Sometimes they will threaten to throw acid in their faces.
ওরা কি অ্যাসিড দেওয়ার এরকম lots of threats like that. They threaten us that you're so proud of your beauty that if I can't have you, then no one else will have you either, so I'll throw acid on your face. Sometimes they come near our house and they'll start shouting and creating a chaos in front of the house, and the parents feel helpless. It might be 1 or 2 days that they can put up with it, but how long are they going to put up with it?
So parents feel they have no choice sometimes but to marry you off even though you're 13 or 14.
They give more value to the honor of the family. That's why they decide to get them married.
Map in hand, the team set off. But Ollie and his group have barely got out of the community centre before they're confronted by an angry woman. They, though, are more than happy to argue straight back.
She's basically saying that, yes, okay, I'm willing to get my daughter to study until she's 18, but then after she turns 18 and she's educated and she has work, no one is going to be willing to marry her. Then what do you do? Are you going to help me? Are you going to show me a way how to get my daughter married?
She'll just come down a very small alley. There's barely enough room for 2 people to pass in it, and the children have knocked on the door. The problem they often find is that they simply don't know the ages of the girls who are being married off, so they've now demanded the birth certificate.
We just came here and asked this man whether his daughter's birth was registered, and it was not. So we filled up a form for him for his daughter's registration. And then we asked him whether he would get his daughter married before the age of 18, and he said no.
Do you believe him when he says he won't marry his daughter before she's 18?
Of course, because we asked him a few questions, and he said that his daughter's life would be destroyed if he got her married before the age of 18.
It's absolutely roasting outside now, so we've come back to the community centre, and Ollie and his friends are now addressing a large group of women. There must be 20 or so. They're all sitting cross-legged on the floor, many of them wearing really brightly coloured saris, green and orange and red, and they're telling them all about the dangers of child marriage and about the list they've compiled of children at risk.
শিশু বিয়ে নিরসনে দেশ থেকে শিশু বিয়ে প্রতিরোধে এক হয়ে এগিয়ে আসুন সমাজের সবাই
Before we leave, the children sing to us about their campaign, and the evidence is that what they and other NGOs are doing here is really working. One activist tells me the numbers of child marriages in this area may have dropped by as much as 50%. I ask Ollie what it's like to stop a girl being married off against her will.
I feel very good that a girl's life has been saved because of the work that I have done, but it is not my own work, because all my friends and the people in my group have been helping me, and it is a joint effort that we are doing. And I get courage from all the work that my group mates are doing.
We've just had another phone call from Jemy's village. It seems her parents are now determined to go ahead with the wedding. Local officials and an NGO are going to their house tomorrow to try and stop it, and we're going to go with them. First, though, we need to find out why the authorities aren't doing more to prevent these marriages. After all, it's been against the law here since 1929, but no one we've spoken to can remember a single prosecution. It seems some in authority just turn a blind eye, including the registrars or qazis who are paid to issue marriage certificates. They've just arrived at a small office with a large green sign on the outside which says this is the office of the Bangladeshi Qazi Association. We're expecting to meet two Qazis. When you are called to a wedding in the countryside, how often when you are called do you think that child may be under 18? Lots of times.
Sometimes we're forced to carry out this wedding because the members and the elders of that village are there, and so even if it's an underage wedding, we have to carry this out.
But then surely you must report that to the authorities, to the police, because a criminal offence has taken place.
We don't report these cases to the police because we might get into trouble.
It's 5:30 in the morning and the traffic in Dhaka is already crawling and bumping its way around the city. It's time to drive the 6 hours to Jemy's village. We arrive in the town of Nator at 11 o'clock and meet Salima Sawa, who runs an NGO called ACD. They specialise in helping girls at